The dinner rush in downtown Vancouver was loud, but Sophie Carter froze the moment she saw it, the compass rose tattoo on the billionaire's wrist as he lifted his glass. The exact same tattoo her mother kept hidden under worn sleeves for 25 years. She stepped closer, heart pounding. "Sir, where did you get that tattoo?" Alexander Hunt didn't even look up at first until Sophie whispered, "My mother has the same one. Same date." His hand trembled. The glass slipped, shattered. Conversations around them died instantly. "What did you just say?" His voice cut through the room, sharp and terrified in a way no billionaire should ever sound. Sophie's breath shook. "Her name is Elena Carter. She said the man she loved disappeared before he knew the truth." Color drained from his face. For a second, he looked like a man watching his past crash straight into him with no way to run. Why does this tattoo bind their lives so violently? And what secret has been buried for decades? Stay with the story, and before we continue, hit like and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more true soul-deep stories. The sound of the shattered glass hadn't even settled before the room shifted. People whispered behind linen napkins, servers froze mid-step, and the warm glow of the Azure Room suddenly felt like a spotlight burning straight through Sophie's spine. She didn't back away. She couldn't. Not when the billionaire in front of her stared as if the ground beneath him had just cracked open. Alexander Hunt stood slowly, the leather booth groaning under his weight. "Say her name again," he demanded, though his voice trembled in a way he clearly hated. "Elena Carter." Sophie kept her gaze steady. "My mother." Behind him, Brandon Marsh, one of the men at the table, let out a cruel laugh. Brandon was younger than Alexander but wore the same tailored arrogance. Slick hair, sharp suit, and the personality of someone who never heard the word no unless it came from a lawyer. He leaned back, smirking. "Alex, come on," Brandon drawled. "You're not seriously buying this sob story, are you? Look at her uniform. Servers pull this stunt all the time. It's always a sick mom, a tragic childhood, some emotional bait." Sophie didn't even realize she'd clenched her fists until her nails dug into her palms. Alexander shot Brandon a look cold enough to freeze the wine on the table. "Shut up," Alexander snapped, sharp, unrestrained, almost feral. Brandon's smirk faltered. It was the first time he'd seen Alexander lose composure in public, and it rattled him. "This isn't a stunt," Sophie said quietly. "My mother never wanted anything from you. She never asked. She just survived." Something in Alexander's face twitched, a flicker of shame passing through his eyes. Before he could speak, their supervisor Carol rushed forward, trying to smooth the tension before it combusted. "Sophie, what's happening here?" "Mr. Hunt, I'm so sorry. She's usually very professional. She stays." Alexander's tone cut clean through the air. "I need answers." Carol blinked, stunned. Brandon scoffed under his breath. "This is ridiculous," Brandon muttered. "You're letting a waitress drag you into some street corner drama? Alex, think about your reputation. Think about tonight's deal. This is exactly the type of thing that ruins powerful men." Alexander didn't look at him. "I said shut up." The entire booth fell silent. For a moment, Alexander and Sophie simply stared at one another, the noise of the restaurant muffled under the weight of what hadn't yet been said. Then Alexander stood abruptly, tossing a thick wad of bills on the table, enough to cover the dinner 10 times over, and gestured toward the door. "We're leaving. Now." Brandon shot up from his seat. "Alex, are you serious? You're tanking a $400 million signing event because of a waitress with a story. This isn't your business," Alexander growled. "Everything you do is my business," Brandon hissed, stepping closer. "We're partners, or have you forgotten? Bad press for you is bad press for me." Alexander's jaw tightened. "If you want to keep that partnership, you'll back off." Sophie watched the exchange, shock and disbelief swirling inside her. Alexander Hunt, one of the richest men in Canada, wasn't arguing about money or power. He was arguing about her. And Brandon. He clearly hated that. The moment they stepped outside into the crisp Vancouver night, the city noise swallowed them. Taxis honking, streetcar wires humming, the ocean breeze carrying hints of salt and rain. Sophie expected Alexander to unleash questions immediately, but instead he paced the sidewalk, fingers trembling as they brushed the tattoo on his wrist. "I thought she was gone," he whispered. "I thought she—" His voice cracked before he could finish. Sophie swallowed hard. "She thought disappearing was the only way to protect me." Alexander stopped pacing. "From me. From your world," she corrected. "From what she believed your world would do." As if summoned by the words, a sleek black SUV pulled up, headlights washing over them. The driver hurried out to open the door, but Alexander held up a hand. "No. Give us a minute." Sophie didn't expect the next words to come from him. "Let me see her," he said, almost pleading. "Please." "I can take you," Sophie said quietly. "But you're not going to like what you see." Alexander nodded once. "I deserve that." They climbed into the SUV. The city's neon lights smeared across the windows as they crossed the bridge toward East Vancouver, where the sidewalks cracked, where buildings aged faster than people, where hope cost more than rent. Alexander stared out the window as if the world looked different now, as if every streetlight reminded him of something he'd tried to bury. When they pulled up to Sophie's apartment building, a weary, graffiti-tagged walk-up, Alexander's chest lifted in a strained breath. "She lives here," he whispered. "She survived here," Sophie corrected. Inside, each step up the stairwell echoed like a memory being peeled open. On the 5th floor, Sophie unlocked the door and led him into the small suite. The lights were dim, the air warm from old radiators, the scent of herbal tea lingering in the corners. Elena was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, oxygen machine softly buzzing beside her. Her hair, once auburn, had thinned and fatigue hung heavy beneath her eyes. She looked up when the door opened, and the mug slipped from her hand, crashing to the floor. "No," she breathed. "Alexander, no." He froze in the doorway, gripping the frame as if anchoring himself. "Elena," he whispered. "It's really you." She shook her head rapidly, backing away even as her body trembled. "You shouldn't be here. Why didn't you tell me?" His voice cracked. "All these years." "Don't," she snapped, the word small but sharp. "You don't get to appear after 25 years and demand answers." "He didn't come for answers," Sophie said softly. "I pushed him." Elena's glare softened. "Sophie, why?" "Because you're sick, Mom. And I can't lose you." Tears welled in Elena's eyes. Alexander moved a hesitant step closer. "What do you need?" he asked gently. "Tell me, and I'll do it." Elena hesitated, caught between pride and exhaustion. But her body chose for her. She swayed, coughing violently until Sophie grabbed her shoulders. Alexander's face twisted with grief. "She needs a hospital. Now." "No," Elena gasped. "We can't, insurance." "I'll cover it." Alexander turned to Sophie. "Get her things." But before Sophie could move, the apartment door burst open. Brandon Marsh. He stood in the doorway, face flushed, breath heavy from the climb, fury radiating off him. "So this is where she lives," Brandon sneered. "Perfect. A scandal waiting to happen." Sophie stepped in front of her mother. "What are you doing here?" "What I should have done earlier." Brandon jabbed a finger toward Alexander. "You're about to throw your career away over this. Over her. Over some sad charity case." Alexander's expression darkened. "Get out." But Brandon only stepped further in. "Alex, wake up. If the media gets even a whisper of this, an illegitimate daughter, a sick ex-girlfriend from some run-down building, you're done. The board will crucify you. Investors will flee. And I'm not letting your sentimental meltdown destroy our company." Sophie stiffened. Elena flinched. Alexander stepped forward, voice low and lethal. "Say another word, Brandon. I dare you." "Oh, please," Brandon scoffed. "You think this girl wants closure. She wants money. That's all people like them ever want." The room froze. Sophie's breath hitched. Elena's hand shook. Even the old radiator seemed to fall silent. Then Alexander moved. Yes. He grabbed Brandon by the collar, slamming him back against the wall so hard the picture frames rattled. Brandon's eyes widened in shock. "You talk about them like they're beneath you," Alexander growled. "Like you're some god standing above the rest of the world. Let me make this clear. Sophie is my daughter. Elena is the woman I failed. And you," his lip curled. "You're nothing." Brandon's bravado cracked. "Alex, calm down." "No," Alexander released him with disgust. "You're fired." Brandon's jaw dropped. You can't fire me." "I can," Alexander said coldly. "And I just did." Sophie watched Brandon's face drain of color, the exact opposite of power. He staggered, sputtering. "This will ruin you," Brandon hissed. "I'll go to the board. I'll expose everything." "Do it," Alexander said. "Tell them the truth, that I found the daughter I never knew existed, and that you tried to bury her to protect your greed." Brandon stared at him, realizing he'd lost. Truly lost. He cast one last filthy glare at Sophie. "This isn't over." "Oh, it is," Alexander said. "Security will handle your exit." Brandon fled, footsteps shaking the hallway as he disappeared down the stairs. Elena collapsed into the couch, shaking. Sophie knelt beside her, gripping her hand. Alexander exhaled, steadying himself. "We're going to the hospital. And I'm not letting anything happen to either of you." The sirens in the distance carried through the open window, blending with the pulse of the city, a new beginning rising from the noise. But what happened to Brandon Marsh after being fired, and how far he went to get revenge, would shock all of them next. In the days that followed, Sophie felt the city shift around her. Vancouver didn't suddenly become softer, and life didn't magically smooth out its rough edges, but something inside her had changed. For the first time, she wasn't carrying everything alone. Her mother was safe, resting in a quiet room overlooking the inlet. Alexander kept his distance but showed up where it mattered, not with grand gestures, but with steadiness she never expected from a man like him. Word of Brandon's downfall spread fast through the business district. He tried to claw back his power, but no one trusted a man who built his career by stepping on people he thought were invisible. The world he once ruled closed its doors on him one by one, not out of vengeance, but because truth finally caught up. Sophie didn't celebrate his fall. She didn't need to. His own choices wrote that ending long before she ever walked into the Azure Room. What she did celebrate was quieter. The sound of her mom laughing again, the growing ease in conversations with Alexander, and the realization that telling the truth had carried more strength than she knew she had. She had stepped into a world that wasn't built for her, and refused to be erased. One evening, standing on the seawall as the last light skimmed across the water, she looked at the city that once felt too big and whispered a promise to herself. Nothing hidden stays hidden forever. Not pain, not courage, not love. If this story touched you, please like, share, and help Canada's Heartfelt Tales grow by subscribing. Your support keeps these stories alive.